It will be all festivities all round this weekend as the ANC descends on Durban for its 107th birthday bash and launch of its election manifesto. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that party's annual January 8th statement. Let's cross live now to Vuyo Mvoko, who is at our studio in Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban, where the ANC will launch its 2019 election manifesto. So Vuyo, leaders of the ANC have been crisscrossing parts of the province and mobilizing for today's event. But today we'll finally hear what the ANC's plan is in their manifesto.
Indeed, and from what the president of the ANC told us yesterday, the approach to this year's election manifesto is one of, as he put it, building on the ANC's proud and distinguished record of the past 25 years. But to help us understand what exactly they mean by that, I'm joined by the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Jesse Duarte, who, as you have just said, was one of those people who were crisscrossing this province in the past week, trying to speak to the party faithful, to hear their concerns, but also to brief them, I would imagine, about what it is that is topmost in the minds of ANC leaders today. The stadium is indeed beginning to fill up. I have a view from where I am sitting of the western side of the arena. People are indeed streaming in. Ms. Jesse Duarte, thank you very much for your time. Help us understand what this approach is going to be, which the president spoke about yesterday when he said you are going to build on your proud track record of the past 25 years.
Thank you very much, Vuyo. I think that firstly, let me say what we understand from our own research, and he quoted the president, the Institute of Race Relations, extensively last night. When it comes to providing basic services, water, electricity and housing, we've done very well. There are gaps, particularly in the rural areas. So when we look at what we need to do, South Africa must be turned into a mega construction site. Building roads, building more houses for people if possible in various communities, but also advancing the social dynamic of how important basic services is. So that is part of what the president will talk about today, is developing our roadmap in such a manner that the government will be focused very much on providing solid service to the people. Secondly, and much more importantly, I should have said that first, is to put the economy right at the top of the agenda. And the president did say last night, our clarion call is let us grow South Africa together. Because if we do that, we will make South Africa a better place for everyone who lives in it. The Freedom Charter, of course, reminds us all that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. So I think if you understand that where we're going is to build on what we've achieved. In terms of education, certainly a great deal more. The infrastructure level of basic education at schools level, the question of high schools. When in this particular province, an interesting dilemma is that schools in old apartheid-defined black areas are not adequate. There are no libraries, there are not enough space to even put up a small computer center. So a lot of work will be done to ensure that we upgrade the understanding of what is needed now by a student to prepare them for the country and the future as we go forward. So it's very pragmatic. It's not pie in the sky and airy-flairy stuff. It's very seriously looking at infrastructure development, a needs process, and putting that down as what we want to do. In terms of agriculture, springboarding agriculture as a major contributor to ensuring that we can provide not only food security, but become a major trading partner for our neighbors and for the African continent in this regard. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are the kinds of things we're talking about.
But in the ANC leadership's own analysis of why you haven't moved with the speed that people would have wanted you to, what for you have been the major stumbling blocks?
I think the fault lines that we've analyzed is the mechanisms that are used to provide the funding processes from national to a province and to a local government level. So there's a lot of thinking right now as to how that can be improved. Also, let's be frank about this, the levels of corruption have been difficult, and it's been a difficult year, a couple of years for us. But we're saying that we've understood where the problems are and we're correcting those problems. We accept that there were problems. It's not like we have our heads in the sand. Yes, there were problems, but the focus needs to be to go beyond understanding the problem and finding mechanisms to resolve those problems. So that's what the leadership's focus is at the moment, is how do you solve. Yes, let's deal with the people who have caused the problems, but you can't just do that. You've got to do the other side of the coin as well. What caused the problems?
But then for a party that has been in power for 25 years,
yes,
obviously you would not have known about these problems yesterday or this week as you were crisscrossing parts of this province.
25 years is a very short time in the life of a nation. In fact, it's your baby steps. So we must be sure that we can't blame what has happened on anyone else, except that what we need to do is to correct what has happened. No, it is true that we didn't know about it yesterday. But right now the focus is on knowing is not enough, fixing is much more important.
The President spoke yesterday of what he called, and I quote, harrowing stories that you heard from South Africans as you were going around KZN this past week. Take us through what some of what you personally encountered or your colleagues told you about.
I think what I saw in some of the places where I went to was the notion of precarious housing being left untouched. For example, you know, in KZN, the traditional norm is to build a mud house with sticks to bolster the walls up. I've seen many homes where the houses have fallen down. And I think that there's been no attention paid to the fact that there's an old person who lives there who doesn't have a voice in the media to make a noise about her conditions and is therefore not given attention to. The second issue is the really not developed infrastructure in the rural communities. You have one road and then you have to reach a homestead through little lanes that are quite dangerous. And I met a lot of elderly people who lived in those places. They do get their pension money, yes. They go to the bank and get it there, but the living conditions are not okay. In one place, there was no water, and I thought that that was unacceptable. It's 5 kilometers out of Stanger. And the question I put to the councillor was, is it a difficulty to take a pipe from Stanger to 5 kilometers down the low and give water to those people? So it's tanked in water, it's not always on time, and people simply cannot live without water. So those issues, we've pulled them together. And one of the things we will be doing immediately hereafter is following up very strictly on looking at what's being done to solve those problems.
Now, from what the President said yesterday, this election presents the ANC with an opportunity to learn from your own blunders and mistakes, as he called them. Now, how prepared are you as the ANC to accept that perhaps the reason you haven't been able to do all the things that you could have done in the past 25 years with all the resources at your disposal and the support that you got from South Africans was in the main because of the problems within the ANC, the problems of your own cadres being stumbling blocks to the correct things that need to be done?
I would be a bit cautious to swipe everybody with the kind of brush that you're tarring us with and about to feather us. I would say that yes, we accept that some of our mechanisms for selection of people may not have provided us with the best people that are available. A popular person is not necessarily a person who's going to be able to sit down and understand a trajectory for delivery at a short, very rapid pace. But I also think that we've done very well. And I think the President did say that it's often very difficult when people are angry to remember how well we've done in 25 years. Very few medium-income countries as ours have a 95% water delivery system to their people, or the rate at which we've delivered electricity. Put aside the problems that Eskom has got. There is delivery of electricity. It needs to be improved. In terms of the housing, over 16.8 million people are benefiting from the houses that have been built. We've achieved near universal coverage at a low level of our education system. Free education for higher grade people. 1 million graduates coming out of universities, which creates its own problems because we've got to create jobs. But I think that we're very clear that discipline and accountability is not negotiable. And people will have to knuckle in and knuckle down and understand that the budget, the money in the budget is not your money. That money belongs to the people and has to be used to deliver to the people.
So, Conchilita, thanks very much for your time this morning. The ANC's Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte. And with that, it's back to you in the studio in Johannesburg for now.